Previously on Mighty Bomb Jack. Mighty Bomb Jack now continues. Starting in level 7, the spaces begin to get incredibly cramped, while the enemy's spawn rate ramps up to ridiculous levels, as does the game's ability to spawn enemies directly on top of you for a quick and cheesy kill. This can put a huge strain on your supply of Mighty Coins, but always remember that if you have bad skills, you can scroll the enemies off the screen to get rid of them, instead of wasting your coins. Now, at this point, I had to pause for a second and check the guide I was using, because what it told me to do was go jump in a fire. And normally I'm not really one to take that command and follow it, but in this case it is the correct choice if we want to get the item in level 7 that is required for getting the best ending of the game. And I'm not talking about a secret coin. There's an entirely new type of item that's not mentioned in the game's manual that you do have to get if you want to get the game's best ending. You access it through this area. It's filled with enemies and fire and is basically a death trap. Of course, there's also a secret coin in this place, which is quite literally a death trap. As you can see, there are 2 hidden chests in this box, and the second one contains the secret coin. The problem is, once you get it, you're floating over a lake of lava, and you have to jam on the A button repeatedly while going to the left to reach that one tiny block that is your salvation. This place is actually easier to dodge around in than you might think, depending on which enemies you spawn. I got off pretty lucky with the skulls and the bird there, and was able to get behind them, so that I could escape. We're inching ever closer to that super secret item, but the last thing we need to do is ascend this vertical shaft to find a dead end. Or is it? Of course it's not. There's another invisible treasure chest that you don't even have a clue as to where it is because there aren't any blocks for you to jump off of. You just have to kind of know it's there and get it so that you can enter the crystal ball chamber. Now, I don't know quite what's wrong with this room, but for some reason the orange power isn't working for me, and I've had to waste a lot of Mighty Coins to keep the enemies off my back while I try to figure out why I can't open chests in the way that you're supposed to. Now, on to the crystal ball itself. The crystal ball, well, there's 2 crystal balls in the entire game, and they are required to get any ending better than the worst one. That's right, you can have all of the secret coins in the universe, but it won't do you any good if you don't have both crystal balls. There are 4 endings to the game, and the way it works is, if you get no crystal balls, you get the worst one, no matter what. If you get 1, you get the second worst one, no matter what. If you get both, but you don't have enough secret coins, you get the second best ending. But if you get all of them, then you get the best ending of the game. Now, to finish out level 7, we need to go to the very top of this area. I skipped by a treasure room right there. It has another secret coin in it, but I'm feeling kind of stingy with my Mighty Coins right now, and you do have to burn 3 of them if you want to get all the stuff in the room. Alright, almost there, right? This level's been pretty ridiculously long. Now, I mentioned earlier that I actually am looking at a guide as I go through this, because I'm not completely insane, just mostly. But the interesting thing is that while I was playing through this level, I actually found a secret in it that was not in the guide I was looking at. And it's not that Mighty Coin, although I initially thought it was. My practice runs kind of all blend together in my head. They're kind of a montage of horrible things happening to me, but rest assured that there is in fact a secret in this level, and it's right there. That Sphinx opens up a treasure room, which is mercifully right next to it so that I don't have to go through that barrage of enemies. And I'm just going to spend the rest of my Mighty Coins right here, so that I can collect everything and get out of there all in one fell swoop. Now, I spent 2 coins to get turned green there since I was already blue, and I picked 2 up, so that's not too bad. One valid tactic for keeping enemies off your back is to try to stay in the orange level of power as much as possible, so that you only ever have to spend 1 coin at a time if you want to turn green. Oh, and don't mess with those chests back there. If you try to get them, you will die. Enemies will begin spawning inside of that construct, and you're just hosed. As you can see, these platforms are actually kind of like the 1 pixel blocks in Mario that you can run across if you're holding down the B button. And with that, we are done with Stage 10. But wait, you say, what about Stages 8 and 9? This is blasphemy! I demand answers! Well, too bad. Restart the game and make better decisions next time. Nah, just kidding. Here's what's actually up. Pictured here is how you would expect progression in a video game to work. Level 2 comes after level 1, and so on. But given the overall difficulty of the game, progression in Mighty Bomb Jack usually looks a little more like this. This revised diagram reflects the most common outcome of any particular game of Mighty Bomb Jack, that is to say, a game over, followed by starting back at 1 no matter how far you progressed previously. But we haven't and aren't going to hit any game overs, and we somehow skipped 2 levels without even realizing it, so let's modify the diagram to reflect that. This is our path through the game so far. Everything was fine and dandy up until we took the left route through level 7 and picked up the crystal ball. While the game gave no indication that anything was amiss, a warp did in fact occur, and we completed that last vertical segment and emerged into the blue hallway. That hallway is the entirety of level 10. But that's not the only warp that Mighty Bomb Jack has to offer. In the first 11 levels of the game, there are 4 different warps, 3 that send you forward and 1 that sends you back. The only warp you really want to take is the one that we accessed after taking the crystal ball, since that item is necessary to get the best ending. Taking the warp from level 4 to level 7 forces you to skip the branch of level 7 that leads to the crystal ball, and taking the warp from 5 to 11 not only skips level 7 entirely, but forces you to kill yourself twice to use it. I didn't show them off for obvious reasons. The tricky thing about skipping from 7 to 10 is that there's a secret coin in level 8 that you may want to get. Fortunately or unfortunately, depending on whether or not you're paying attention as you enter level 11, there is a warp back to level 6 right at the start that lets you complete the skip levels without giving up the crystal ball. So let's assume that I took that warp and progressed back to the first branch in level 7. Alright. Here we are back at the decision point in Stage 7. This time we're going to skip throwing ourselves into the fire, and just fall all the way down. Doing it this way is actually extremely easy. The level is not really that hard, if you go the way that you're intended to. Although this part is surprisingly similar to the route above, just without, the fire or any of the things that make it super dangerous. Alright, maybe it's nothing like the route above, but that first screen was basically copy and pasted from it. It's at this point that I realized something that I didn't actually know before, because I didn't need it. I wanted to turn all the enemies into coins here by spending a couple mighty coins, but what I discovered is that you actually can't do it. That's right, you cannot use mighty coins while you're in the royal chambers, and that makes getting all of the lit bombs for the 50,000 point bonus extremely difficult. Sadly, this will be a common theme in the future. Stage 8 is short and sweet, but there's a lot of cramped corridors and a lot of places where the enemies have a great chance to kill you. There's also a secret coin hidden here early on. Now, when I took the warp, I didn't have that many coins left, but I'm totally fine, because there are 6 of them in Stage 8 that refresh me up to full. The problem is making sure that, you don't do anything foolish like trying to grab a 10th mighty coin so you don't get sent to the torture room. Now, sometimes I have difficulty remembering where things are, and this is one of those times. The chests beneath that giant thing of fire seem like they might be important, so I am of course going to go get them, but there's actually nothing useful down there. It's just a mighty tonic that you don't really need, since the level's already almost over. This part is a little difficult because the game likes to spawn enemies and have them drop in exactly the point that you need to get to jump to that door. Fortunately, there can only be 4 enemies on screen at a time, so once all the mummies have dropped, you can just bypass it like I did. Now this particular royal room is tricky. Because the bombs are on the inside of those outcroppings, it means that you basically have to put yourself in a situation where the enemies can corner you in, kind of like the ghosts in Pac-Man. In fact, really, that's what the royal rooms remind me of, is Pac-Man levels. Stage 9, on the other hand, is nothing even remotely resembling a Pac-Man level. In fact, it's the first outdoor level of the game. I actually rather like it, even though you can't jump through the clouds, you just bounce off them like any other completely solid object. It's cool because it has fire just kind of floating in the air, and doors just kind of floating in the air, and you really have to wonder what sort of satanic power that Beelzebub used to construct this pyramid of madness. That, or you have to wonder what in the world the guys were smoking when they programmed this game. I wonder that a lot, actually. This area, while reminiscent of the Metroid escape sequence, is not that long, and it quickly leads to the final segment of the level. Stages 8 and 9 are really both very short and sweet, and this one in particular has absolutely nothing hidden in it. In fact, it's really hard to hide much of anything when all you've got is some random clouds to stand on. What it does do, better than any other stage so far, is spawn enemies directly on top of you. As you can see, I am just barely avoiding death as I hop across these things, because mummies keep spawning incessantly. There are a couple things hidden in the pyramid on the way out, but both of them are mighty drinks. I don't understand why you would need mighty drinks at this point, because the exit's right there, unless it's to give yourself plenty of time to scroll enemies off and on the screen till, oh crap. As I was saying, until you can make it to the exit. Well, fortunately for me, the game decided to have mercy on me, even though that mummy was fully spawned and I touched it. Because I was also touching the door, it seems that the game decided to let me off easy, which I very much appreciate. Again, I wasn't able to get the 50,000 point bonus, and it eats me up at night. And that'll do it for round 9. Completing it will just dump us at the start of level 10 again. I think that's about enough for now, so I'll see you in level 11 next time.